Welcome to another edition of Weather and Climate Chat. It is Wednesday, August 3rd. Monsoon Mike and Dr. Michael Davis. Dr. Davis, welcome to the program.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, good to be back. We've been getting a nice little break of sorts the past couple of days. Let's first go back to a couple of weeks ago. We had some pretty intense heat that seemingly did not want to let up for a while.
Yeah, the heat was pretty much entrenched across the eastern U.S. as the residual part of the heat dome, if you want to call it that. That kept pretty much everyone very toasty for the last half of the week. You had some record highs being set across the area. I think it got up to 95, 96, I think, around Allentown.
Yeah, I didn't check the official, but yeah,
that's a record.
Mid to upper 90s. Yeah,
I did see a 95 got a record.
Yeah,
I think it was Thursday last week. I'm not positive on that. It might have been Friday.
I didn't see any hundreds. I know some areas came close.
I did not see any hundreds either.
So it's not as bad as it could have been. But eventually that heat did start to break, and with that break came some pretty interesting weather over the weekend in the tri-state and also down in the Maryland, Washington, D.C. area. Especially Saturday night, you and I were just talking off the air about something pretty crazy that happened in a town called Ellicott City. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You're right.
Yep, that's Ellicott City, Maryland, where they had some historic flooding. In 2 hours, they had 5.92 inches of rain. So that's more than a month's worth of rainfall in a couple hours.
And that's right up there with like tropical rainfall that you would get from, say, a tropical system like what we saw with Sandy or with a hurricane.
Now, the National Weather Service Eastern Region headquarters shared an interesting meme on Facebook, which I found totally mind-boggling, where they broke it down by minutes. And in the first minute of the rainfall, 7:51 to 7:52, so we're talking 60 seconds here, 0.2 inches of rain fell. That's almost a quarter inch. That's almost not even physically possible to get a quarter inch in 60 seconds.
That is a completely extreme case of rainfall. It's very difficult to get a quarter of an inch, roughly, of precipitation out of the atmosphere in 1 minute.
That's not even almost rain. That's almost like somebody opened up a trapdoor in the sky and a bucket of rain fell. That's unfair.
You could probably equate it to that, yeah.
Yeah, and in 5 minutes, 0.80. So in 5 minutes, you were almost getting to an inch. 10 minutes, you were already almost up to an inch and a half. 15 minutes, you were already past 2 inches. I guess the rate did slow down a little bit because we go on down the pike, and in 2 hours, fortunately, that 0.2 every 1 minute rate didn't continue for 2 hours. But still, 5.92 was the grand total in 2 hours, and some pretty incredible flooding down there.
Yeah, with that very heavy rainfall, it's going to be overwhelming the sewer system and blocking up pretty much where the drainage is trying to go. So you're going to have massive flooding going on. That's what we saw. And some pretty sensational video coming out from that area as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at the radar image of that night when it was happening. What was happening here? Was that what they call training, where the storm would not move? Or explain what happened, Dr. Davis.
You had pretty much an area kind of associated with our stalled out front that caused a lot of precipitation down further south. There was also a very moist atmosphere with a lot of potential for rainfall. So during that case, you had pretty much a band of precipitation extending from what we're looking at on the image in front of us from northern, I think it's Baltimore, what we see there, over toward the Potomac River Valley or toward the West Virginia area.
So, yeah, that was absolutely incredible, Dr. Davis, and I know they're still recovering down there and probably will be for some time. Millions of dollars worth of damage, I heard. I literally saw pictures of cars floating down the street.
Yeah, and we had 2 deaths, unfortunately, with the system, and flooding is often a very, I guess, unperceived threat by a lot of people, that they don't think water is that dangerous, but it can be. And once you get in flooding situations like that, it can turn treacherous very quickly.
Now, I don't know if you saw, but Hazleton, not too far north of here, had a mini version of that. Fortunately, nothing like that, but some pretty incredible pictures from Hazleton from, I think this was 2 nights ago,
I think that was Sunday night.
Yeah, a couple nights, Sunday night.
I think it was Sunday.
Yeah.
It might have been Monday, but earlier this week.
One or two, yeah. And I'm showing you some pictures here. So nothing like Ellicott City, Maryland, but I'm not sure what the rainfall total was there, but that looks like a good couple of inches fell in a rather short amount of time.
Yeah, so, that's pretty typical for what you're going to get with heavy precipitation from this really warm, moist air mass that was sitting over the area for much of the day.
Kutztown proper region, fortunately, did not have anything like this. We had some heavy storms move through, but nothing quite like this. Now we're finally into a little bit more of a benign pattern. Next couple of days look pretty nice.
Yeah, we have the high pressure pretty much sitting over the southern New England region, which is pretty much dominating our weather, and we're getting easterly winds today, which will be bringing cooler air from the ocean, essentially keep our temperatures down.
Okay. And then looks like our next front, well, I should mention it, we do warm up a little bit. Looks like by Friday we get back into the stickiness. I saw maybe highs near 90 again, humidity on the uptick. But that's kind of short-lived because Saturday another front rolls in, and by Sunday it looks like we're comfortable again.
Yeah, we have a frontal system that definitely looks like it's coming in sometime over the weekend, probably Saturday. And after that, pretty much cleans out the air, and we get back into the 80s. But then models are suggesting potentially climbing back up in the 90s by mid next week.
Yeah, I'm trying to find this one page that I follow. He's pretty good. He posts a lot of good models. Pictured below is the HHR model showing high temperatures for today. Oh, this is today. Okay.
I was about to say the HHR.
Yeah, I was going to say the HHR doesn't go out.
You're not going to get that far.
Yeah. I thought about that for a second. I'm like, that doesn't make sense, but that was today. Here we go. Pictured below is the latest GFS model showing high temperatures this is for next Thursday. So it looks like we're deep into the 90s possibly next. Geez, this model has like mid to upper 90s again, if that's true, if that turns out to be correct.
Looks pretty red across the entire eastern U.S.
Yeah, so it looks like we might be getting into another spell like what we just did. Hopefully not as lengthy, though, this time, because that was a little tedious there for a while. I was ready for some cooler air, and we're getting it now. So
this week has actually been pretty average in terms of temperature, where we should be sitting about the mid-80s, and that's pretty much where we've been. We've been a little bit below average past couple of days, but we'll take it after getting slammed with above-average heat last week. And
we should disclaimer this, that we're not picking on AccuWeather at all. We think AccuWeather is great, but we do find their 90-day forecast that they just debuted this past spring kind of an interesting concept. And I think we're going to have some fun once the semester starts and see how their 90-day forecast holds out for the entire semester. But
they did make an accurate prediction for my wedding day, so we're good. And, at least on that one day.
And they're showing the heat next week. Their heat's not too extreme, though. They have Kutztown on next Thursday when that GFS model had 97. Theirs says 89. So that's, it's above normal, but not ridiculously above normal.
They may be going conservative, at least.
Might be going conservative. Then the following week, it pretty much cools back down to normal, if not a little bit below normal some days the following week. But yeah, I mean, how are we?
Partly cloudy and 82 for the first day of fall semester.
Yeah. Will that be true? Partly cloudy, or they say mostly cloudy, but whatever.
Cloudy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's based off of, but
I got a weird angle on this.
Yeah. First day of the spring semester or the fall semester. First day of fall semester monsoon, Mike. I'll get it straight. The 29th, they got mostly cloudy, 82 degrees, which is exactly average for what it should be on August 29th. So we'll see if that holds true. Make that mental note, Dr. Davis, that when we recorded this on April, what is today, this 3rd, that it's going to be mostly cloudy and 82 on the first day of the semester. We'll see if that's correct.
All right. Okay. We'll mark it down.
Yeah, and actually that whole first week of the semester looks fairly average. Nothing extreme either way. Maybe a little above normal at the end of the week, but not too bad. So we'll see. All right. So there we have it, folks. We had some extreme heat. Now we had some crazy stormy weather, and now we're back to some nice weather, and then maybe next week some more hot weather, and then we cool down again, and we'll see how that all goes. Topic of the week. You have anything good for us, Dr. Davis?
Recently there was a report put out, or I should say it was a presentation given by a climate scientist at a conference stating that if you've been pretty much alive for less than 31 years, you have never seen a cooler than average global temperature for a month. So in other words, the last time the Earth was below average temperature-wise for the month was February 1985.
That's kind of scary, a little concerning. Yeah.
And he was saying something like, well, we're just going to become more of a frequent pattern in terms of as we go forward. But there's some other climate scientists out there that say, well, maybe not so much in terms of being above average, because this will be the new average. So the new average is something that is being built on something that simply doesn't exist at this point. We can't really fathom where it's going to go.
Wow.
So we do know it's going up. And frankly, in a few years, you might have people that have been alive for 30 years that have always known above average temperatures. So you have...
I guess that kind of debunks, one of the arguments from the climate deniers out there will be, well, we're just going through a little phase. But I think it's kind of hard to argue a little phase when it's been 31 years.
Yeah, and when you
Yeah.
start talking about these natural cycles,
Right.
yeah, but
Yeah.
the fact is we are now a force of nature that have been adjusting and altering that trend. So even if there is a natural variability to it, it's being dwarfed by what we are doing.
Right. Wow. So what was that date again? 31 years in 1985. So if you-
February 1985 was the last global average monthly temperature that was below average.
So if you were born from March 85 onward, you've never been alive during a below average.
You've never seen a
never
below
global-
average
Wow.
temperature globally.
A little concerning. I would say that's concerning. So
It is quite
Yeah.
concerning.
yeah, and I know, and I have to always do the point counterpoint. I'm sure some climate deniers. Well, what about those really extreme cold polar vortex months that we had a couple of years ago? Well, that's was in our part of the world, and this was global. This is a global. Stat.
It's all regionalized.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if, like, I was just reading a book, Catherine Hayhoe's book, that's
Right.
going to be for my global warming and climate change, and they made the point of, or try to tie it in analogous with medical terms, with how we're being told that you shouldn't eat like all these fatty foods
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
have a balanced diet. There's people who go out and don't do that,
Right.
and they die,
Yep.
unfortunately, from a poor diet.
Right.
But there are some people that do that, and they live
Forever.
forever,
Yeah.
practically. So while you can still have that, we know
Right,
that
right.
you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
But yet, people still do it, and they're fine, but other people do that, and they're in trouble.
There's always exceptions to everything. Do you remember an old actor called named George Burns? I'm sure you've heard the name.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody would joke about that. He's like, well, he lived to be 100 years old. He smoked like 5 cigars a day. He drunk like a fish, and he lived to be 100. Well, there's exceptions to everything.
If you have good genes, you're
Yeah,
good to go.
I guess he had good genes. Okay. Well, but you can't use like one particular instance like that and say that that's the whole picture.
And you can't
Yeah.
claim one certain event on
Right.
climate change. Like take the flooding that we were talking about in Ellicott City, for example. You can't really say that one instance was directly tied to climate change. What we're seeing is a trend in that direction
Of more of those kind of things.
of more
Yeah.
of those kind of things, precisely,
Yeah.
but you can't claim one.
That's very funny you said that, because just 2 nights ago, my wife said to me when I was showing her those stats, and she's not a weather geek like I am, and I'm sure you have the same thing. I'm sure your wife's not a weather geek like you are. So she was looking at me, looking at that graphic, and she's like, is this caused by climate change? And I'm like, well, I don't want to sound like a climate change denier, because obviously I'm not, but it's hard to equate one instance to climate change. However, we're seeing more of this kind of stuff happening. So as a whole, it could be.
And I always give
yeah.
the analogy in class of baseball and steroid use.
Yeah.
Because before steroids became rampant in Major League Baseball, pretty much you had a certain number of home runs that were hit. Now, because of the steroids usage, perhaps we're seeing more home runs nowadays, so people are getting stronger and able to hit the ball further.
Right.
But can you point directly to an individual home run and say that was because of steroids?
No, you can't.
I don't think you can.
Yeah.
Now, you can look at that whole trend and say, yes, we've been going up because that's when steroids started being used. So that's the analogy I give the students.
And that's a very good analogy. I like it a lot. Well, so I guess the moral of that story is we've just got to continue on the proper course of, addressing climate change as a real and viable issue, because without a planet, we have nothing. So,
Precisely.
and all these other arguments that the big politicians are arguing about, this issue, money, war, none of that's even going to matter if the planet's gone.
Massive extinction of birds and from wind turbines.
Yes, we got to address that just very briefly. One of the major candidates, without mentioning names, yesterday said that kind of downing wind energy, said, well, what about all the birds that wind turbines kill? These environmentalists, they never talk about issues like that. Well, yes, and we're not going to deny wind turbines have killed some birds,
yes.
But you shared an interesting stat from the Audubon Society, and I would think that they would know their birds. They are the Audubon Society. That if birds have anything to worry about, it's cats more than wind turbines.
The numbers that are being reported are widely varying on estimates,
right.
Whether they be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
So there's some discrepancy, but the Audubon Society that released the information I shared on your Facebook page said that cats, buildings, windows typically are the main destroyers or killers of bird populations. And if you think about it, too, how many birds are there globally?
Right.
There's got to be billions of birds across the world. So even if you're having this number, not to sound callous or anything,
right.
But it's not going to wipe out the entire bird population.
And I was just going to say, and if we have any bird fans listening out there, don't take us the wrong way that we don't. Oh, I
love birds.
Yeah, I love birds too, and I will say that wind turbines do kill birds. So I mean, but obviously it's nothing to the effect of what that candidate was saying compared.
It was
to
extreme of how he was presenting.
And also, we should mention that that's where technology comes into play. That we should continue working to make wind turbines safer. If you saw on my Facebook, somebody shared a article with me about how they're trying to make wind turbines that are just as efficient as the old ones, but that won't hurt birds. So,
it's possible. We can do
so
this.
let's keep working on that.
And I will also mention that I have a student this coming semester that's working with me on bird migration and bird habitats in climate change.
Sounds like a good guest for one of your future shows.
I'm hoping I can bring her on
You knew where
the
I was
air.
going to go with that. Yeah, sounds like a good guest for a future podcast. All right. Well, we filled 17 minutes. I think we're now good. Dr. Davis, thanks so much for joining us. Just a quick recap. Fairly nice weather over the next week, and maybe some heat returning again the end of next week. We'll check back in hopefully before that so we can break that down a little more.
Yes, and let's hope it doesn't get to the 90s again, or at least the upper 90s.
Unfortunately, I think we'll be in the 90s again before the summer's over, but hopefully just not upper 90s. So hopefully AccuWeather's 90-day forecast where they topped it around 89 is right.
We are in the depths of summer right
now.
But,
we got to get through it one way or the other. We'll get through it. All right. See you next time, Dr. Davis.
Sounds good.